Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson. This has been a legitimate debate now after the NFL draft for who you prefer in Dynasty. In rookie ADP, they're back-to-back at the 1.09 and 110. And in June startup ADP, they're separated by only 4 picks, with Christian Watson being more commonly taken before Jahan Dotson in both rookie and startup drafts. But I'm here to tell you that I strongly disagree with this ranking, and I would fairly easily take Jahan Dotson over Christian Watson. I will preface by saying that I am a Penn State fan and alum, so while I try very hard to remove that bias, it does creep in sometimes. So I just wanted to throw that out there to let y'all know. So since both of these players are rookies, all that we really have to go off of right now are collegiate careers and their prospect profiles. I already have a method of evaluating rookie wide receivers using a set of 12 markers that basically act as checkboxes on player profiles, and then I have a final adjustment based on draft capital. Using these markers, Dotson comes in hitting on 6 out of 12 markers, while Watson hits on 7 out of 12. However, Watson's markers are more largely athleticism based, while Dotson is more production based. Ideally, we want our rookie receivers to come into the NFL after 3 seasons as early declares with young breakout ages based on high dominator ratings, and then get the draft capital needed to be given an opportunity early in the NFL. Unfortunately, neither Dotson or Watson were actually early declares. Dotson was at Penn State for 4 years, and then Watson was actually at North Dakota State for 5 years because he redshirted his freshman year. This also means that both are older rookies as well, but Watson, because of that extra year, is already a year older than Dotson at 23 years old before he even sets foot on an NFL field. Production-wise, these stats pretty easily favor Jahan Dotson, not just in raw numbers, but also team and age-adjusted numbers over their careers. Dotson, over his entire 4-year career, has a 42% dominator rating compared to Watson's 18%. Dotson also had a better first season, not counting Watson sitting that entire freshman season, but the first time both actually played, Dotson was better, and he was playing third fiddle behind KJ Hamler and Pat Freiermuth, both of whom were second-round NFL picks as well. Dotson's breakout year came in his 3rd season in 2020 at 20 years old, and then he continued that production in 2021. Watson also broke out in his 3rd year, though it's technically his 4th, at 21 years old, and then continued that production in 2021. So like I said, when it comes to production in both raw and adjusted numbers, Dotson wins across the board. He was better at a younger age. He was better on a better team with actual competition, not only on his team, but also defensively playing in the Big Ten. His only fault was really that he just wasn't utilized or couldn't make a mark earlier in a Penn State team that, like I said, had 2 second-round picks also that were just a little bit older than him above him. Watson sat an entire season as soon as he got to North Dakota State. Then he struggled to make his mark early too. But again, this is at North Dakota State, not Penn State, not Clemson, not any other Power 5 school. It's North Dakota State. The difference between the two really comes down to perception. Statistically, Watson was just a more explosive player. He never averaged below 18 yards per reception in a season. That upside, combined with his 6'4" frame and sub 4.4 speed, is what made him such a compelling prospect that quickly rose up draft boards, getting compared to the likes of Julio Jones and Kenny Golladay and being the next Calvin Johnson. But he's also an extremely raw player. Coming out of college, it was noted that his hands are questionable. He dropped 16 of his 120 catchable targets according to Pro Football Focus, and that was the highest among a lot of notable rookies in this class. And then so when I hear that reports from Packers OTAs are saying that he's struggling to catch the ball, I'm not all that surprised. His route running could also improve, but that's not a major concern as a rookie, but it just lends more to the fact that he is a very raw player. On the flip side, Dotson is pro ready. His hands are fantastic. He catches almost everything. He can be utilized all over the field and be your possession guy. He could be your big play guy. He legitimately can be a team's wide receiver 1, even at his smaller 5'11", 180-pound size. That's what he was for Penn State for 2 years in a row. He absolutely dominated Iowa 2 years ago. He torched Ohio State for 19 for 271 and 3 in 2021 and 2020. And don't even ask me what he did to Maryland, because that's just, I feel so bad for Maryland fans. The final comparison between the two is situation, and I think this is why most people are choosing Watson right now, and I think that's going to be what ends up burning you at the end of the day. I don't believe that the situations for both receivers are like that much apart to warrant taking an inferior prospect over a better one. Obviously, what's propelling Watson's value is Aaron Rodgers and no Devontae Adams, but how long does he play with Aaron Rodgers? Does Rodgers retire after this season? Does he retire in 2 years? Then what after that with the Green Bay Packers? The Packers also continue to be a team that will need wide receiver help next year and maybe the year after that. So what if they invest significant capital into a free agent or a rookie next year to come in and compete with Christian Watson? Jahan Dotson, on the other hand, is the wide receiver 2 right now and might continue to be the wide receiver 2, but that is assuming that Terry McLaurin re-signs a deal with the Washington Commanders, which at least at the time of recording this, he has not signed a new deal, and I'm not even sure if there will be one because McLaurin might not even want to be in Washington. There's a relatively decent chance that McLaurin walks next year, and then Dotson is the Commanders' future wide receiver 1. I mean, they clearly love him. Why else would they draft him 16th overall? Well ahead of where they even took McLaurin a couple years ago. Then there's also the perennial game that we play of just overvaluing players strictly because of landing spot. I mean, how many times over the past few years have we propped up a player wrongfully because of that? I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Trey Sermon, Keyshawn Vaughn, Mecole Hardman, Henry Ruggs. It's also not unlikely that a player just doesn't work out. We've seen that with Jalen Reagor, with Denzel Mims, with Anthony Miller, Dante Pettis, and tons of other players that were deemed more raw coming into the NFL. In fact, when you filter my database down to day 1 or day 2 players that entered the NFL at 23 years old with a production profile like Watson's, you get Michael Thomas, so there's that, but you also get Kevin White, Terrence Williams, Mohamed Sanu, Leonard Hankerson, and James Jones. When you do the same thing, though, for Jahan Dotson, you get Andy Isabella. Man, what could have been with Isabella? But also Tyler Lockett, Golden Tate, and Santonio Holmes. So essentially those comps perfectly sum up these two players. Watson has the highest overall ceiling, but a very low and much more probable floor for him to hit in his career. Dotson has a higher probability of outcomes that are very good over his career. They're just not as high as Watson's, but they're more probable for him to hit based on his profile. On this channel, I've advised drafting Watson over Dotson in rookie drafts on very select teams that could afford the home run swing on Watson if your receiver room is that good. But more often than not, I'm taking Jahan Dotson because he's the better player who produced and showed way more in college and was drafted higher by the NFL. It's as simple as that. But while we're on the topic of rookies, I recommend checking out Justin's video on 3 rookies that he's targeting in drafts and in trades before they gain value this 2022 NFL season.